everybody. It's your host of Freedom to Fight, and you're a Mathis, and I have another exciting episode to share with you. It's been quite a while. I'm really glad that everybody's been patient as I've gone through a lot of life changes, and I will definitely share that here at the end of the episode. But I'd like to introduce my next guest. His name is Scott Hamm Duenas. Scott is a BJJ practitioner. He's a blue belt. He is also an actor. He has an extensive acting career, including being on General Hospital twice. He is the owner of a production company, a film production company. He's just doing really awesome big things, and we have a wonderful conversation. So I hope that you enjoy this episode 12 of season 3. Scott Hamm Duenas. Stay tuned because I've got a lot more episodes to share. Had to take a little bit of a break, so I've got some episodes backed up, and I got some new material coming, including those episodes. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you again for being patient. And again, let me introduce episode 12, season 3, Scott Hamm Duenas. Thanks for listening. I'm out of breath for some reason. I walk for 30 seconds around. I know I'm out of breath. My cardio is bad. Hi, everybody. It's your host of Freedom to Fight, and you're a Mathis. I have another guest on my show. I'm really excited because I haven't really talked about this area of focus, acting and film and production, and I'm super excited about that. So Scott Hamm Duenas, a actor. He's got an extensive acting career, started a production company. Combat sports practitioner, including BJJ, and you're a new dad. So I'm really excited to talk to you about all of that. I'll turn the mic over to you so you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, wow. Thank you. What a great introduction. And I'm really happy and excited to talk to you. Grateful to be here and talk shop. I love it. And a fellow BJJ practitioner too. So that'll be fun to talk a little bit about our journey in a very hard sport. So it's great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'm glad we were able to work it out. I'm incredibly busy this time of year. I feel like I was busy this time of year last year, and I just had interviews lined up, but it's good. I feel like my show is taking the right direction. I'm getting the right attention, and most of my listeners are men, which is awesome. So we could talk about mental health and talk about things that matter. Yeah.
That's all fantastic. That is a good problem to have, to be too busy and to have too many people wanting to be on your show. That's a good problem to have.
For sure. Yeah. So Scott, tell me about your acting career. I really love, I should tell you, I have such a passion for that. That's kind of why I switched my podcast from just audio to video, so that I can also to incorporate editing, and I'll be able to display some of your work, and it's a really fun project for me now. So I'm excited to talk to you about your acting career.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And yeah, it's amazing and to now how all that stuff is so much more friendly as far as learning to edit and create your own content and kind of be in charge of the way you want things to come out. It's a really cool thing. Kind of how I started my production company when I said, I think I can do this now, not being a billionaire or a big studio. So I'm with you. That's awesome. I can't wait to see it and also listen to other episodes of your show.
Yeah.
But your question, I've been acting for a while now. I started off as a normal kid, wasn't a child actor or anything. I started off just loving to play sports and hang out with my buddies. But I loved two things. I always like to say two things that I loved were sports and movies. So, I'd be play Little League all day, and then I had a TV in my room really, really young, and I would just come home and like flip it on to fall asleep with and watch movies and TV shows and just fell in love with it. And so fast forward when it came time to hang up the baseball cleats and decide what I wanted to do with my life, it was like I got to do something I love. And what else do I love? I love film and TV. So I said I got to figure out how I get into this crazy business. And I just found my way to LA and started taking some acting classes and kind of did the normal thing. I said, hey, let me get some acting classes, go out, get an agent, and start auditioning in this crazy town called Los Angeles or Hollywood, and whichever one you want to call it. And that's kind of how I got things rolling.
Awesome. What was your first audition?
First audition, God, I don't even know if I could honestly say, but it's because, I mean, not to sound jerky, but you go so many
For
auditions
sure.
because even the best actors don't get uh, even the ones that are working all the time.
Yeah.
Some people say, man, if you're getting one out of 30 or 40, if you book them one out of 30 or 40 and you're not like a star name, you're doing really, really well.
Yeah.
And so they have piled up, but I can remember really it was, I started out, I didn't come from a big theater background or anything, although I made myself go out and do one or two community plays just so I at least had a grasp of what that was because it's part of this business. The first auditions I started going on, I remember because I didn't know what I was doing. I had no connections. I had no like friends in the business. I had no inside thing like, oh, my dad's brother is a
Yeah.
big time agent. I'll go there. I had nothing. I got literally my first acting class. I got it out of a piece of paper or like a phone book type of thing and said, this sounds good. It's in Hollywood. I'm going. So I went and it's on Hollywood Boulevard. It has to be good. And that I just was, but it was great because I just was around other actors and could ask questions of how you get started and start doing things. But my auditions primarily them were like, everyone's asking me for a resume. I don't have a resume. No one gives you any work
Yeah.
until you've got work because they're like, well, let's see what you've done. I haven't done anything. We'll come back when you've done something. So that double-edged
Yeah.
sword. My first auditions were really like you would people from student films and the universities around there would post stuff in acting classes
Okay.
like, hey, come audition for my class final that I'm shooting or my student film that I'm shooting for. It's no pay, no nothing, but I'll try and get you a copy of it so you can use it for some footage and it gets you experience. And that's really the first couple auditions that I went on. I think like my first like real audition where I'm like, oh my God, this is on TV may have been a small part in Power Rangers, if you remember that old.
Nice. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course I
yeah.
do. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was something like that, something along those
That's
lines.
awesome.
Yeah, super nerve wracking, but I didn't get it.
Did that lead you to
But
martial arts? Is that why you pursued martial arts?
no,
No.
but that's so funny you say that because yeah, a lot of I think my part didn't even have anything to do with karate too. It was like that one of the storylines, something I was some kind of jock or something. That's what I
Uh,
auditioned for a lot when I started was like the jock, the high school jock, the high school football player. But it really got me in the door because I started when I eventually started booking those roles. Um, yeah, I didn't really have to start doing any kind of stunts or martial arts or things like that until I got older and playing more adult roles. And now it seems like I have people reaching out like, hey, you know how to fall, right? You know how to like take a punch, right? We can. We know you're an actor first, and because they kind of limit, even if you're fantastic, until you're a big star and you dictate the situation like a Tom Cruise or something.
sure.
They really like to use stunt guys too. One, you don't want, and two, and you don't want to be the actor that's taking money out of a stuntman's mouth by saying, I can do that on my own, get away from me. But also, there's a whole thing if you mess it up and you get hurt, it
Yeah,
screws
for
everybody up
sure.
because then you can't shoot.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
shuts down the shoot. But I've been lucky enough where I have gotten to do some of my own fight stuff and gotten to display a little of my skills on, we'll call them that loosely, on
It's so awesome. Yeah.
on TV. But yeah, but no, I think my Power Rangers was like to be a high school football player or something.
So I have to share this because of what you just shared. So I really love film. I love watching movies and documentaries and just like looking into the production of
Right.
any project. And so my first acting bit wasn't acting. I was in West Side Story, so it wasn't. It was dancing, some singing, but
Nice.
yeah. I love West Side Story. It's one of my favorites. But so
Amazing.
as an adult, though, because that was in high school. As an adult, my my first acting gig was like a student project. Um, and it was for fighting. I needed to learn some fight moves. It was so funny because I didn't have an interest in pursuing martial art. I didn't think I could, so I didn't pursue it.
Right.
But the actual acting role was the fighting, and I think that they either picked somebody else before I could audition, or I missed it. Something happened where that was no
Hmm.
longer the part for. I do have a little bit of fighting because I did get that role. I was an
Good
android.
for you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was like extraterrestrial and just like and fighting and like we filmed this in Dallas. I mentioned I'm from Texas, but I
Yeah.
can send it to you. But it was my first project. I said if I want to do this, then I have to do that. I have to actually pursue
Right.
things and put myself in vulnerable situations. And so yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. You have to send it to me. It's great.
for
That's
sure.
amazing.
Yeah. I
Good for you.
one other thing so with that team, that same director, she invited me because I did so well on that role. She invited me
Right. Of course.
on her next project, and so this one was a little bit. This was more dramatic. I got more speaking roles in this part, and I did a monologue, and I cried on
Oh,
cue. Yeah, it was
wow.
talking about family dysfunction, and it's like this mystery, and it's so cool. I'll send both of them to you. Yeah,
Please. I love watching stuff like that. That's amazing. Good for you.
thank you. So, how does one? You kind of had an unconventional start to acting, not having any connections, but I
Right.
guess what's your advice for people that are pursuing? I mean, I'm pursuing this. So, what advice do you have people that are pursuing this type of career?
Oh, that's funny. I was just talking to somebody the other day that his daughter wants to start. And yes, well, obviously, you want to, if you're, you know, everyone always says do some theater, if you can. But I always feel hypocritical when I say that because I didn't come from the theater. I
Sure.
basically came from the baseball field and behind the TV
Yeah.
and said I can do this. I know I can do it. But yeah, I would say find what genre you want to break into, and yet go. I think if it's not theater, go put yourself in an acting class to start, and just to get an idea to see if you like it if you don't have a lot of experience. Be around. That was a huge thing for me, and I think that's a huge thing for any business is be around other people that are pursuing the same goals
Mhm.
as you. And there's probably people you're going to meet people that have been doing it for years in that class that can answer questions for you or help you with like how do I audition? How do I
Yeah.
get an agent? How do I make a resume when I don't have anything and that no one hires anybody,
Mhm.
and how do I get in the unions and all that stuff. It's so good to have a network of actors and stuff. And you find that in acting classes, you make friends. I still have great friends in this business that I met in acting classes. So I would say that put yourself first in a class, see if you like it, see if you catch that acting bug if you don't know already. And then I would say um, also learn the cliche. It's called show business for a reason because there's a huge business side to this. Learn some the business aspect of it too. Learn about how agents work and how managers work
Mhm.
because there's a lot of people that will prey on people just starting just to get money out of you.
Yeah.
Learn, and then so learn a little bit about the business. Get yourself into an acting class, and then from there you go out and you get yourself some headshots and you start submitting for an agent. And then once you get an agent, then you just start preparing yourself to do some auditions and get ready to go. But my biggest advice too is don't treat this like it will be, hey, listen, I'm good looking or I was the best actor in
Sure.
my high school, like it's gonna be a fast thing. It may be, you may be the unicorn, but those are unicorns. It's like I met so many people throughout time, like, yeah, I came from South Carolina and I'm giving myself a year. And if I'm not on a series in a year, then I'll just go back up. But a year should be plenty. I'm like, oh man, you know, after a year, you probably won't even have an agent yet.
Sure.
It's but I try not to be negative, but don't give yourself unrealistic
Right.
expectations. Don't compare yourself to the next person that maybe that comes into your acting class and says, "Oh, I just booked 10 lines on General Hospital," and then you get all depressed because you haven't done it yet. You can't, or you're gonna lose it. So those are my main things. Find somewhere to go. If you wanted to be a doctor, you'd hang out with doctors or people in medical school. If you want to be a baseball player, you're gonna hang out with baseball
Yeah.
players. And same thing, go hang out with actors and find out what the heck they're doing out here and how they're making this thing happen. And don't be giving people your money because so many people will take it and not do anything for you.
Oh my
That's another
gosh. I've already
thing.
been
Yes,
bitten by that. I've already like invested in scams and stuff and fake roles and anyway, yeah, they're out there
it's
just like
it's it's maddening because, and it's such a like I when I have friends reach out like, "Hey, someone come talk to my daughter." We were at Target, and they came up and gave her a card and said, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful, and you should be in movies." And I work for such and such a thing, and we have people on Disney. That it just, you don't want to be negative. Like, of course, your child or might be beautiful and talented, and all that, but it just doesn't work like that. It's not like the 20s where agents and casting people in the movies, they have thousands of actors presented to themselves every day by legitimate agencies and people in Hollywood. There's no way they're walking around Target looking to get the cute girl from the
sure,
thing. I mean, that's a 1 in a billion thing that something like that would happen.
sure.
It's usually a service, these services that they say it without, they kind of represent themselves like they're agents or casting or something like that, and like they're really just acting classes. But they start doing stuff to you like saying, all right, our acting classes are 500 and our headshots, you have to use our photographers, and that's a $700 thing,
Ooh,
and you have to use our person to get your reel, and we make reels, and that's another thousand. And these are all things you can get for like way cheaper on your own, and not, and these people can't place you with anything.
yeah.
They just can't. All they can do is probably give you the same advice I can give you for free.
Hmm.
um, but it's sexy, and it's exciting when someone comes up and says,
You're
you should be
amazing.
in my movie. Yes. Oh, you know what? No, I do need like $300 from you for this and that. And it's a camera test or this and that. That's all nonsense. You don't need any, if it's a legitimate project or a legitimate agent or a little bit legitimate casting director, they're not even really allowed to ask you for money. They don't,
Really?
they're supposed, no, a real agent or something. They and managers are all in their own little unions and have their own regulations, and they only make money if you make money. If they get you a job, they get a
Mhm.
percentage of that paycheck, which is totally fair.
Yeah.
But no, they should never ask you for a dollar, and they should never ask you for any money.
Wow. Okay.
But right there, huge red flag that something is wrong if someone's asking you for money.
Interesting.
The only, yeah, the only people that could do that is maybe a publicist, because they would say, hey, listen, I'll help you get your name out there, but you got to pay me
Right.
a
That's
monthly
a
fee.
different
That's a whole
service. Yeah.
different thing, a different level, a whole different thing. Managers, agents, casting should never be asking you for a red cent. That's a giant red flag. So there's anybody out there getting ready to start. I promise you, no matter how good of a talker or salesman they are, I promise you they shouldn't be asking you for money.
Okay. Good to know. I mean, I really
Yes.
would like to put myself out there a bit more. And so I'm naive and I have fallen into these traps like, oh, you should come
Mhm.
model for us. Oh, really? But you need to
Yeah.
pay us. Like, I don't know. I will be more careful, but it's good to know that, in every area there's corruption. There's people that are taking advantage of people not knowing really the industry. So you have to be.
And this is, yes, you're right, and that it breaks my heart because this is such a, the different thing about this industry is these kids, including myself and other people, it's their dream. When
Exactly.
someone like, it's so, and it's intoxicating, and when someone comes and tells you everything you want to hear, it's hard to say
Yeah.
no, and especially if they're good at it. And it's just like, Yeah, it's crushing that all that exists, but it exists big time in this business because they know how you're getting desperate people coming from all over the United States and maybe even the world to come out here, and a small group of people competing with a humongous pool of people for a handful of
Right.
jobs. Uh, so it's you can get beat down too, and when someone does come and say you're the best actor I've ever seen, you're the prettiest, and you're the perfect, just give me $500 and I'll get you in there. That's just yeah, that's a terrible person that does that, by the
For
way, too. They should be
sure.
ashamed of themselves.
For sure.
Yeah, that's
I I I know this to some degree because I've been burned before, and I have people in this industry, and I can kind of talk to them about what's being presented to me. If it's a podcast guest that that I've never interacted with before, my show is getting out there, so I'm getting more attention. But that doesn't mean everybody that wants to be in my show has good intentions. Like it doesn't mean that,
right.
right, I should be supporting their message because that's really what my platform is. And so I'm really fortunate that this is my show. I don't have a production team. I'm the production team. I'm
Yeah.
I'm sorting things out, and I feel like just going through all the hard times of production is
Mhm.
is good for like my mental health. Like it's good for my overall health to challenge myself to not make the same mistakes on the next episode, or to be more creative or more expressive in certain areas. Like
Right.
it's the best project I've ever done because it's not just about me. It's about me
Yeah.
developing myself, but I'm also getting to do that for my guests. So it's exactly what I need as somebody with my personality. I need to help people. I need to help people. So this is a way for me to do this in a creative way on my own.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And yeah, you're your own boss. You get to make the decisions. You're right. You decide what goes on. That's a great thing. And I could tell how much you love it just because you smile the whole time you're even talking about it and describing it. So this is obviously a good thing for you. So, and yeah, and well, of course, mental health is such a huge thing. And it's been so great that over these, seems like more recently over the years, we've definitely put it more into the forefront or the limelight or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
Because I think we've all been dealing with it forever, but it's always had this stigma where people didn't talk about it. I think people are much more into talking about it now and dealing with it, which is a great thing.
for sure. Yeah. I feel like everybody says this reference point, it's the pandemic, kind of like for better or for worse, we got to this position. But I think like we were forced. Like there was no
Hmm.
like there's no option. We had to
Right, right, right.
because the world is still in a state of chaos. Our economy is trash. It's not good
Yes.
for most people. It's not functioning correctly. And so, yeah, we had to figure out some things like being a remote therapist. Like, I can now live wherever I want to. I can help
Yeah.
people from any area of the world. And I don't think that I had just finished my master's degree the end of 2019. So that was like right
Congratulations.
before the pandemic. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
how am I going to be a therapist in this world? Like, how do I get my foot in the door um, while the world is in chaos? And so
Well, yeah.
being able to be remote like gave me full control. Like I am I'm networked with other professionals, but I get to work for myself. I get to make the decisions of how to treat my clients. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's amazing. And it is true. God, it's so true with it changed things. And like that, when we initially hit that spot in the pandemic, like thinking that, oh no, very less important example, but for or that I dealt with, the same thing was that all of a sudden there was going to be everything went to self tape for auditions and interviews,
mm,
and everything was self tape. We had to do it ourselves, and we had to do it from home because they didn't want offices with waiting rooms and
right.
handshakes and huggies and all that stuff. And so it was, and I was like, oh, I hate that. I like being in the room. I get along with people. I think maybe in the past I've gotten stuff because they're like, this guy seems like he'd be real easy to work with, or just whatever is in your brain as an
Mhm.
actor. But now I think it was a blessing. I absolutely love the self tape, just like you're talking. You just rang so many bells in my head. I get to do what I do for the most part, until I book the job, is from here, from my house, my own little teeny studio that I carved out in the back of my house to, and I don't have to drive all the way into town,
Mhm.
and I don't have to deal with traffic, and I don't have to deal with parking, and I don't have to deal with. I can do the same exact thing because most of the time you went in there, they just put you on tape anyway.
Hmm.
So you just it's
Interesting.
we're just do it here.
Yeah.
We just cut everything else out, and it's made my life so easy. And now that I have two small kids too, it makes me way more present for them
Mhm.
because Dad only needs 15 minutes to go do his audition. As before, it's like I'm gone three
Right.
hours. Dad's going to be gone 3 hours, and if LA traffic's a mess, might be four.
Yeah.
So it's like I love it, but I was like you. I'm like, oh no, how's this going to work? Auditions are done for. We're never going to get parts again, or I'm never going to get to network and meet people. But it's all worked out, and I love it now. I love getting to do everything from home.
I feel like just the same. Like I had previous experience in mental health where I was working in person. I've worked in group homes and residential facilities and hospitals and clinics on site. I've done home visits. I've done a lot of that. And it's strenuous. It puts a lot of work on your body just to go to help people, just to get there and to
Yes.
get home and be able to relax. Like the fact that I can do this where I feel the safest at home, doing
Yeah.
podcasting as well as therapy. It's like I can finally truly be myself and deliver the messages to my clients in the best quality. Like I don't have a boss breathing out, over my and I also don't
Right.
have, so people in the mental health industry, a lot of these programs are governed by the state. I mean, they're state funded, and
Mm-hmm.
so you have to use the state's material to treat people. And I'm sorry to say, but I don't think a lot of those models work at all. I don't think that really incorporates like human psychology. So I
Right.
get the freedom to actually use treatment methods that I know work. So yeah, it's freedom.
Gosh, that's so interesting. I didn't even know it because that's as someone that knows nothing or claims to know nothing about doing what you do. But it would seem just to have canned scripted stuff or a model to follow would be, I don't know. I like that you go off when you're like, no, I got some other things that don't work too because everyone's different. And how do
For
you know
sure,
for
yeah.
sure that your client is going to fit into one of those little boxes right there? They might need a personal touch from you, or you might be able to bring a different perspective because maybe you know something from your personal experience or something too. So
Well,
that's great. How
oftentimes,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. Oftentimes, I can say I've experienced this personally. I just
Right.
experienced a lot of trauma in my lifetime. But so yes, all of the therapy modalities are structured in some way, but it really depends on the practitioner. That's my job as a therapist or counselor, or we're all psychologists. We're all in the same realm. We're all practicing therapy. Social workers, licensed clinical social workers, are also therapists. There's a lot of titles there, but that's our job, is to not just like follow like a script, unless we're talking about
Right.
some things in EMDR, which I'm an EMDR therapist, but it's really like um, dissecting that information and incorporating it. You're giving the human quality to that information. Like we're actually making the
Yeah.
connection. Yeah. Like, but
I'm a big fan of the human quality too. That would make me feel so much more comfortable if I was working with you.
right,
Like, yeah.
instead of you feeling like a number, and like a pay,
Yes.
it's I'm talking to a human being that has experienced some traumas that I've experienced. I can talk to them from that position, and I can give them clinical tools to help them heal. Yeah.
That's so beautiful and good to hear because You do sometimes, like I mentioned, my kids or my family, taking someone to the hospital or dealing with something with the police or even a store or something basic like that. Sometimes you do feel like a number, and you just do, or you're talking to someone on the phone and you could tell that just scripted, canned answers to the problem that you're trying to solve, and it's just like, man, don't can't you just give me a little human touch? Like, I know you're not allowed when you say like, what would you do? They're like, I'm not allowed to answer that, but I, I get that. I get that you can't say that because the world is so litigious now. You got to be careful what you say, but but sometimes you would like the human element for someone just to be like, I understand. I was married to, or just anything. It makes you feel so much better than just a number, like you said.
Yeah.
It's like, well, sir, I can direct you to this, and that's all I can do, and that's
Right.
all I can say. And you're just like, oh man, who here can just talk to me like I'm a person for just a second and steer me where I need to go, whether it's mental health or just the regular doctor or just day to day life.
Yeah.
Help each other out.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah,
like you just because you brought up doctors, like I feel like I've had that experience with most doctors. Like even in my I've trained with doctors, like in my internships, and like
yeah.
it's the same kind of relationship as like I'm just a number. We're just gonna get through this, and I kind of there's a place for that. Like I do love that aspect. I do love structure.
Right.
I do love there's a definitive answer for some things. Like I do love that. I've done clinical research before. I really have a big desire for that. However, that human touch, that human quality, that connection that you make with a human being is so vital because I don't know. I feel like that's why people stop going to therapy. I feel like
Hmm.
that's why it's not successful is because we haven't made the truest connection with people. So, and not every professional can do that. Just because you're a doctor or
Yeah.
therapist, some people just don't have that quality developed.
Right. I know it's God. It's complicated, man. And when I say that stuff too, I like I said, I also get it. Like I can't go to the doctor and say, "What do you think, doctor? Should I have the knee surgery?" And then he goes, "Nah, I wouldn't do it, man. I'd shoot." And then all of a sudden, someone goes out there and then they make it 10,000 times worse because they didn't have surgery. And then the next thing you know, they're like, the doctor told me I shouldn't have had surgery. And now they're suing him in the hospital for $1 billion. So I totally get it. But I think, like you said, there's a great place for the structure of what we're doing here. And then there's also, that's what I think makes a good doctor or a good therapist. They kind of know when and when not to. Let's stick to the script. And then also, this may need to call for a little bit more of a personal touch over here, or a little bit more of and I love that. Like I said, I'm a personal touch kind of guy, and I also hate litigiousness. I hate that. I'm just like, we just sue everybody for everything, and that's why people are scared to say anything
Right.
because everyone's scared they're going to get in trouble. They're going to say the wrong thing, or they're going to I don't ever want to offend anybody, but it was a lot of people were petrified to offend everybody now, and it's hard. We're my kids are gonna have a fun time navigating this world today. But you know what? It's just whatever. When they're old like me, they'll have their kids will be going through something. They're like, I don't know
For
how you guys are
sure.
gonna do that. We didn't
Yeah.
have to. We didn't have to do that when I was a kid. Everyone's got their thing. Like it's when I talk to people now, and they're like, oh, it's not like it used to be, and this and that, and we can't say this, we can't do that. I'm like, yeah, but man, the times in my opinion, the times just change, and like we we said that our parents said the same things about us. That all the stuff we were saying
For
was
sure.
crazy and wacky, and we would never do that when we were kids. We didn't need that, and it's like, oh man, you just got to live with the times. Nothing makes you sound older and more out of touch than when I was a kid. We didn't do
Right.
that. We were tough. We didn't have mental health. What was that? It's just like, well, we're evolving.
Yeah.
They didn't have electricity when some people were really young either, but
Or
we have
running
it now. Aren't
water.
you
Yeah.
happy we do? Yeah, exactly. Aren't you happy we kind of did? It's things you didn't, but we're happy, right? We're moving on and learning and trying to get better. So, yeah,
change
I love that kind of stuff.
change is a constant. There's we will always
Yes.
change. That's the nature of human beings is to change and evolve, to adapt as well. But that's our
Yes.
human nature.
I agree. And yes, and some things are going to drive us crazy and some things we're going to love. And that's human nature too. And that's just everyone's being a little different and has different life experiences. So, one person might love this and one person may hate this, and it's the exact same concept. So, what are you going to do? Try and meet in the middle and we'll all figure it out and let's just get along.
For sure, for sure. I have to know, because you brought up you have some TV experience. I'm sorry to transition,
Yeah.
but I
No,
to
go.
tell me about it. Like I think I saw something on your profile, but I want you to tell me what TV shows that you've like. What experience do you have on TV?
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I like to say I got a little bit of everything. I've done soap operas
Okay.
and I've done a couple sitcoms and I've done some just regular TV. Now it seems to be more about the streaming stuff. But my first ever thing that I booked, or you know what? I'll skip that one and go to one that one of my biggest break that really helped me out took place where you're from. It took place out in Dallas. I
Oh,
did it. I guest starred on an episode of Walker Texas Ranger, the old
whoa.
TV show with Chuck Norris, and it
Yeah.
was filmed out there. God, it seems so long ago. And like at the time, yes, that was my thing, man. I was so happy. It got me into the unions. It
Wow.
got me. I was getting after that way better auditions, and but I got to go out to Dallas. I mean, I was really in it too. I was in the whole episode, and I was there for 2 weeks
Wow.
and got to do some sort of karate with Chuck Norris. He did karate on me, and I just had to take it. And so all that stuff for me was like, and I was playing a football player, and it was just like a dream. It was one of my favorite experiences. I always credit Walker Texas Rangers like my one of my favorite possible television experiences. Was being on that show, and I got a lot of run from it too. It really worked out well for me at the time, and I loved it. And it still airs to this
I've
day.
got
I
to
still
watch
get
it. Oh my gosh.
yeah, you got to watch it. It's called the episode's called Devil's Turf, and
Devil's
it's
Turf. I'm writing it
Devil's
down.
Turf. Yeah,
Okay.
I can't remember which season, which episode number, but you could Google it and it'll pop
For
right up.
sure.
I think someone sent me something a while back that said they just ranked the episodes of Walker Texas Ranger and yours is 25th all time. And I was like,
Aw.
oh, I love it. I'm like, how many episodes are there? Not 26, right? There's only a little
No, there's
bit.
a lot, right?
Yeah, it ran for a while. It was a good gig, and I liked the episode. And like I said, it still plays. And another fun fact from that episode is the other guest starring actor, the bad guy, was played by Sam Jones, and he was the original Flash Gordon in the movie Flash Gordon. And so I had watched that as a kid. So for me, I was like, I got Flash Gordon as the bad guy in the show that I'm in. I got Chuck Norris, who I just loved, from his martial arts and from his movies. And, he fought Bruce Lee and on screen. I'm like, oh my God, I'm
It's a
on
legend.
like
Yeah.
sensory overload and I'm on TV
Right.
saying words. This is like the greatest 2 weeks of my life. I don't want to go back.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that was my first big TV experience. And then, yeah, I kind of just really, for me, there's not a ton of, I'm not a big star that gets to make the decisions on everything I get. So I get my auditions, I get the opportunity to turn them down or take them, and then same with the parts. But for the most part, I like everything, and I'm willing to do most genres. So I love them. I've gotten to be on General Hospital.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I did recently. I got to be in the series Cobra Kai, which I was really
Oh my
happy about. Another martial
gosh.
arts
That's
guy. Yeah,
amazing.
so I've kind of bounced around a little bit. I did NYPD Blue back in the day. So I've done some pretty cool, fun TV shows that are around. So this is going to sound terrible too, but it's without looking right at the resume anymore. It's like, oh yeah, no, this one was cool. This one was cool. It's hard to just pop them off in
Sure,
your head
sure.
because the last few years too have been way more like independent film heavy for me too. But I do still like to book and get out there for these TV shows because they pay really good. The TV things pay really good. Sometimes it's a lot better than the indie films. Sometimes. So yeah, I don't know if there's a specific one you wanted to ask
No,
me about,
well,
or but
I didn't
from
realize you were on with Chuck Norris. I didn't realize that part, but I saw General Hospital, and I grew up on soap
yeah,
operas. Like especially
Oh,
when I was sick from school. Then we could sit and watch the
mhm.
soap. That was like one of my favorite pastimes to do as a kid, and just with my siblings. Like I watched a
Right.
lot of soap operas as a
What
kid.
was your soap? What was
I
your
think
go-to?
I think
What
it
was the
was
one you
General
watched?
Hospital and there's a few
Oh,
others. I
good
haven't
taste.
even thought about that, in a very long time. But like I was in those shows. Like I was like
Yes,
invested in this drama and like learning about relationships from soap operas. It's pretty cool.
I I had never watched them before I started acting, but I did like I was playing baseball at some little school out in Podunk, Illinois, and my roommate was addicted to Days of Our Lives.
It's
And like
another
we
one.
would always have lunch at the same time, and it was always on at whenever when our lunch break was. And I'd be like, "Oh man, can we watch something else? What are you watching? Like, put on sports or something. Put on." And literally, like 2 weeks later, it was like, "So what's happening now? Is this?" And then like a month later, it was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe April's dating Johnny," and I was so into it.
Right.
So I became a fan too, and then after working on them now, I think I've done three. I've been on General Hospital the most. Then I did this one that's old one called Passions that's no longer around, and then I recently did Bold and the Beautiful for a little bit. But I was definitely General Hospital was my uh, really good one because I was on it for a little bit, and I've been on it twice, played two different roles,
Wow.
and they just kind of spread it out over the years,
Okay.
which was it was so funny. And that's kind of just how soaps work too. They can be a little bit loose with that kind of stuff because before I was a really bad guy. I was the town gay basher. I
Oh
was played Frank
no.
Roush. I would pick up gay men and then beat them up. And the tie into the show was they had a gay character that was in the closet, and I'd pick him up and beat him up, and then he's at a crossroads and I believe it was the Luke and Laura's son, and from that people that know GH Luke and Laura, like the legendary couple. But anyway, uh, his thing was that what do I do? Do I come out and finger this guy and convict him and say that's the gay basher? He's the one that beat me up. But then everyone's going to know, hey, why is the gay
Uh,
basher? Why are you on a date with a gay basher and he's picking you up? You're
interesting.
not gay, right? Or does he stay closeted and let this jerk keep doing his thing? So that was kind of my run. I think it was like 9 episode arc, which so I loved it. And yeah, but I knew my days were numbered because I said this is a good one. They're like, yeah, they might have to keep your character around even longer. This is like a good storyline. I'm like, this guy's a little really wicked for daytime TV because I not only was beating up gay men, then when I got arrested and had a lawyer, I had an African American lawyer, and then all of a sudden I was racist.
Oh
I'm
my
like, the
gosh.
cancer is going down and never coming back. He's too mean for daytime TV. So yes, I did. I went to jail and I'm still there. Frank Roush is still there. And
That's
recently,
amazing.
like
I'm gonna
yeah,
watch
like
you. Yeah.
yeah, you gotta. Those are hard to find. It's so frustrating. It's hard to like. You can find like the older TV shows now and bring them out, especially with streaming the way it is. The 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 soap operas are harder just because there's a show each day and they kind of
Hmm.
live and die. So you know what I
Yeah.
mean. But I think you can find it on. You can probably find it on YouTube if you hit Frank Roush or My Name in General Hospital. The last go around I played just a bad guy, but I got they really called me in because I could do some fighting. It was almost all fighting. Yeah, I'll
Awesome.
have to send you the clip of that. It was just almost all. I was robbing the store, and then I get in a big fight with the guy, and then they come back after me and they throw me around. So I got to fight for like 3 episodes. So it was cool.
That's
As
amazing.
much as me and you like our fighting, so that
Yeah.
was fun.
Let's talk about fighting.
Yeah,
I
let's
think
do
we've
it.
delayed it enough. I just because I'm so interested in acting and just that field. So
Oh, me too. I could talk about it all day. I'm a fan. I'm so happy to be in this business because I'm a fan of the business. I love it. I love movies. I love TV. I love storytelling.
yeah,
So I could talk about it all day. So to ask me whatever you
I'll
want. I
come
love
back
it.
to it.
Yeah.
But I want to know about your martial arts journey and like, yeah, what got you interested in fighting? I guess yeah, like I'm curious if you have striking experience if you're doing that in acting. Yeah, so tell me about it.
Yeah, I do. I have always loved it. Like even kids, I loved as a kid. I loved action movies. I, like every kid at some point, got myself into a class for a little while. But at that point in my life, I was like, this is taking away from my baseball, man. I'm going like, I want more little league, more baseball, more baseball. So I didn't. I liked it, but I didn't, get as how to really learn it and get good at it.
Yeah.
You have to apply yourself and put in the time and whatever. So I always said I'm going to go back to it, and life just kind of went by. I kind of wrestled one year in junior high and was going to wrestle in high school, but again, it was at the same season as baseball. So I was like, I'm playing baseball over wrestling, that's for sure. I don't have to cut this monstrous amount of weight to play baseball. I
Yeah.
can go in there. And then I got to this point later in life, I don't know if you call it a midlife crisis or what. And I said, I have always wanted to learn like how to fight for real. I love the MMA now that it's so big. I loved martial arts. I love martial arts in movies. And I said I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna find something and I'm gonna do it. And you know what? My goal is I'm gonna get a black belt in something. That's gonna be my life goal is to get find some one I love and get a black belt in it. That was how I initially started. And I took like a jujitsu class at community college because it was free.
Ah.
And looking back on it now, it's pretty funny for jiu-jitsu. I mean, we didn't even have mats. There
Oh
was just a
no.
carpet there. Like a one elective free class. It's kind of a
Whoops.
disaster,
Yeah.
but the teacher was good. And he like recommended me. He's like, you could actually do this for real. Like I know a lot of these people are just kind of flinging around here in their jeans and stuff, but he's like, you have an athletic background. Like you wrestled a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I wrestled a little bit. And he's like, you could tell if you really want to do this, I'll give you some real places to go to. But I somehow before that found my way to it's more of self-defense and combat sports, but there's a lot of jiu-jitsu tied into it. Is Krav Maga was the first thing that I got into that I went like, I dig this. And I think I liked it too because there was, a lot, there was striking, then there was ground, and they kind of pull a little bit from each martial art to make a self-defense system called Krav Maga. It's an Israeli combat system that their military uses and stuff. But made some good friends and got addicted to it. Was there 4 or 5 nights a week. I loved it. And then as you progress through the system, uh, they started incorporating more ground. And then I was looking around going, some of these guys are terrible on the ground, which is fine. So me too. And some of these guys are like amazing. What is this dude doing? Like I know I had a couple jiu-jitsu class, but this is and it turned out that my Krav Maga instructor was a black belt under Sergio Machado. If anybody knows BJJ, he's a huge name in BJJ, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I've been trying to get them to add a night of Jiu Jitsu, but I got some places you should go check out. And so I did. I went and checked out this place called Legacy MMA in Burbank, and it's a phenomenal school they have Muay Thai there and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and they even have a couple nights of judo, so you can
Nice.
go crazy, whatever you want, and lots of classes. And I started taking Jiu Jitsu years. I don't know how many years it's been now, and just I loved it. But I was doing both. I was doing Krav Maga and Jiu Jitsu, and taking some Muay Thai because I wanted to learn how to stand up and striking, like you said, as well. And so I would say now it's been probably a total of maybe 7, 8 years I've been into
Wow.
this, and yeah, I'm pretty good at all of them. I'm not excellent at any of them. I'm not a black belt in any of them. I'm like a mid-level belt in all of them, like in that blue belt and purple belt range, and in each one. And but I love it, and I'm like, I'm in no hurry. I'm not trying to get in the cage, and I'm also not. So I'm just going to learn, keep doing it. My perfect week is getting to go to maybe Krav Maga once or twice, BJJ once or twice, and then do some Muay Thai once or twice, or even one and one
Mhm.
because I'm busy now with the kids, just to keep the toe in the water until the schedule frees up more. But I absolutely love it. I get, the famous saying, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. Some nights I go in, I get the heck beat out of
Yeah.
me, and I'm like, what am I doing? Then the next night I'll go back and I'll have a terrific night in my sparring and go, I'm figuring this out. I love this. I can't wait to come back. And then you go back the next night, and again, you run into some monster that just makes me feel like I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my journey and where I'm at. And I moved about 30 minutes away from Legacy but I found some places closer to my house that I train at. But I'll still make the trek and go down there and see all my old friends. And I try and get down to that one at least once a week and do something down there. And then I have my little spots that now being in the community, because as you know, you're a practitioner yourself, the community is really cool and really strong, and the people are nice. And you can walk into these places and be like, "Can I train today?" And it's good to see you. And yeah, where are you training at now? Yeah, come in anytime you want. It's kind of gotten to that for me, so I love it. Trying to learn from different people and trying to get. I like to joke around and I go, "Yeah, I love being terrible at like 3 or 4 combat sports." At all, like, no, you're pretty good at all. It's the other way. I'm like, yeah, but you know how humbling this stuff
For
is.
sure.
It's a humbling thing to do, but I love it. I plan on doing it forever, and I am going to get. I don't know which one will come first, but one of these I'm going to get my black belt in. If not, maybe I'll get multiple. We'll see.
For
But
sure.
got to carve out the time. I got the 2 year. COVID set me back a little bit because everything shut down. So I lost at least a year there
Yeah.
that I could have added on. And then I got 2 little babies too that kind of
Yay.
have made it. I got to take care of that. You can't maybe be away taking 2, 3 classes in a night
For
because you're
sure.
so addicted and you get more rolls. You're like, I got to get another roll in because I was
Yeah.
terrible there. So I got to take fundamentals class coming up. Maybe find myself some white belts to go practice. You know, so
how,
that's kind of where I'm at.
how old are your kid? You said you have a 3-year-old, and how old is the other?
One, yeah, one just turned 3, and the other one is about to turn 6.
Okay, okay. So they're young kids.
So
Yes.
the 3-year-old was a COVID baby. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I think spending all that time at home, and then all of a sudden, like, oh hey, we're pregnant again. Oh, look at that. And so it's been crazy having kids throughout this COVID thing. I think for him, or no, was it the other one being born? I don't know, but somebody, we still have the hospital rules for one of them where you couldn't have more than like one person in the room, and so the family couldn't come up,
Yeah.
and it was really strict at the time. But yeah, I've got 2 very little ones. I've got 3 and 5.5.
Okay. So I'm curious, are you going to put the oldest one in jujitsu? Are you
I I'm dying for her. I have some stuff. I have a bag in my garage at my house, and they do show interest when Dad's out here hitting and kicking it. And I have a little, I have some mats that I throw down to, at least do some drills here when I can't always get to the gym myself. And they seem to be showing some interest. I am not going to pressure them.
Yeah.
I promised myself, my family, look, do I want a baseball playing black belt in jujitsu kids? Yes. Daddy's dream,
Yeah.
they do. My little girl is the one that's 5.5, and she right now is loving soccer,
Okay.
and she loves gymnastics. So there's a little tie-in. So we'll
Yeah.
see. The boy is showing a real interest in when he sees Dad rolling around like a crazy person. He showing some interest in, I want to do that, or he'll lay on my stomach and I'll be
Oh.
like, oh, you're in side control, and I'll roll him around and stuff like that. You got it, you got it. So we'll see.
For sure.
That being said, even if they don't love it, I do want them to take some kind of self defense, just so they can at least know how to hit somebody and run away,
Yeah.
hit somebody and go get help, defend themselves if someone puts their hands on them, especially my daughter. Um, so I want them to know something. They're definitely going to be in something, whether they like it or not, for a little bit, just to learn some type of basics. And I want them to have. I would love it because it's so great for confidence
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
for discipline. Because most of the people that know how to fight really good are great people.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are the best are the ones that you have to worry about the least because they respect fighting and they're not going to pick on you. It's the bullies that don't know how to fight most of the time.
Yeah, yeah. So I brought that up just because jujitsu I think is perfect for really young kids to learn those skills. There's a family that I follow. Jonah and Riley they practice BJJ. I believe Riley is the girl and she's 4.
Mm-hmm.
She may have turned 5. I don't know if she turned 5 yet. And the boy, Jonah, is 6, and they compete. Like they're making these
Yes.
daily videos, these jujitsu videos, and they're also competing. And they have a younger sibling, but I can't remember their sibling's name. The little baby, I think, is like 2 years
Yeah,
old, like doing these jujitsu moves, maybe a little bit older than two, but like that's so impressive to me. That's so amazing that children
it
can
is.
pick that up and do well. Like they're fighting people their size, but they're really skilled at that. Like that's so inspirational to me.
Once yeah, if you start as a kid, you're going to be a thousand. The younger you start, the better. I mean, you can start at any
Yeah.
age, but it helps to start. And but those kids, when I watch a kids class or something, if there's one ending before I start, and I'm seeing these kids, I'm like, oh my god,
They're
this
killers.
6 year old,
Yeah.
this 6 year old would murder me. And I'm like, but at the very least, his technique is 1,000 times better than my like. So I get what you're saying, and I worry when I think about my kids because, and I go, I don't know, are they going to be into, and they might, who knows? Because jujitsu, as you know, is one of the few that you're sparring every class at most gyms, no matter what. At the end, that's part of what you do is you're rolling
Mhm.
3 or 4 5 minute
Mhm.
rounds, and that's part of leveling up and getting your belts and doing better and learning the sport. And that's what I love about it too. Is so many of these things like karate or something, they just do katas and stuff, which I completely respect. But you don't spar in every class at the end, so you don't really know if you ever need to use it. Could this
Sure.
work? If you take in jujitsu and train in jujitsu, you know what works and doesn't work for
Mhm.
you because you're applying it at the end of every
Yeah.
class against people of all different levels. And that's where I think my kids, I go, I don't know how they would take to that contact because it's a lot of contact. They're wrestling, man. They're, as you know,
Yeah.
they're going at it. They're going
I
at it
love
for a few
it.
minutes,
Yeah.
and yeah, I love it too. We'll see if my kids end up loving it when I throw them in class one day, or if Daddy's heart can take it if he sees some little girl just rear naked choking my little girl and
Yeah.
me going, "Oh my god, I can't watch this."
Hey, it's
Yeah,
real
it's
life
crazy.
exposure though. I mean, I don't have any children, so I can't really speak to that how I would feel about it, but for me, so I've been training just for a few years. I'm
Uh-huh.
white belt level, but I don't think I could do anything else. Like meaning like this fulfills me in so many different ways that I don't think that I mean my show is about martial arts. I don't know how I'm going to
Right,
like deter from this. Like this is just part of my life now. And before I didn't pursue it because we I grew up we grew up poor. We couldn't afford taking
right.
martial arts
That's true
classes. Like
too.
that's just
That's
real. Even now as an adult, I'm like parenting myself and paying for my membership, monthly. It's expensive, but it's
yes,
I didn't
yes,
feel like I should even take an interest as of this as a kid because we couldn't afford it. Like that, it just wasn't
right.
something that was attainable. But now I feel like I don't know what my life would look like without training in martial arts.
Love
Like
it.
I need this. I dance as well and I sing, but I feel like I was maybe more interested in dancing than singing as a kid because I don't know, it just felt very freeing. But I'll notice if I don't dance for a period of time, I'm actually experiencing depression. Like if I don't engage in the things that I'm passionate about, I'll get depressed. So I have to like regularly keep this relationship going, with martial arts.
Yes, you 100%. It's I was thinking it while you were talking too is that it ties into what we were talking about before, for sure with mental health. I nothing like if I go a week and didn't do anything, it's just like, man, I need to do something. And then when you go back, or one where you're having a tough day, and then I go and I take like a Muay Thai class, and I just get to hit some pads and kick some pads, and not like aggression, like oh I
Sure,
hate my day, just to do it and to be learning it mentally. It like cleans me out,
for
man. I
sure.
feel so good and feel like just the fun things of I learned something today that could better me. I did some physical fitness. I got to be around other people for the most part who are good people who like the same things I do. And yeah, it's really good for my mental health. And even jujitsu after doing the rolls, even if I get crushed all three rolls and come back afterwards, but I'm like, look at me though, man. I was out there for 15 minutes wrestling some really tough guys, and I'm fine. I made it. I can do these things, and it mentally helps me. And then I go home too, and I'm like, That's pretty cool, man. It's I'm with you on that. It's the martial arts stuff and the combat sports, however you want to put it, is it's for me for sure too. It's mentally good stuff, and it's I was out for 4 months. I tore my like it's pretty. Don't scare anybody away from BJJ, but you can take some injuries. I tore my LCL, and
Mhm.
I was out for like 4 months, and it was tough. It was
Yeah.
tough being out for that long
Yeah.
because yeah, and I also there's that little thing of like all the people that you started with that are still going 4 and 5 nights a week, and I'm like I'm missing out. They're all passing me by. And they're all getting better than me, and I want to learn. I want to stay with them. So there's that mental aspect
Yeah.
for me too. Like those are my guys. I want to be learning the same as them, but we all have a different journey and a different time frame, and you can't compare yourself to other people's journey, or you'll go crazy.
You will,
But I agree, mental health.
you really will go crazy. You should be in competition with yourself. You should be trying to better yourself, because otherwise you're looking for the wrong things. I think that the lens
Yes.
is it's clouded, it's distorted if we're trying to compare ourselves to others. But so I'll share with
Yeah.
you, I should have shared this before we started, but it's just I had a very serious injury, so I'll just prep you in that way. So I trained
Okay.
for, let me say, about 18 months. I have two stripes on my white belt. I got promoted a few times in Muay Thai, and wrestling I was just attending regularly. There wasn't any promotions there. But
Yeah.
um, so I sustained a concussion, and it was really severe. So concussions can be, really mild to like hospitalization, and I was hospitalized. So I trained in Muay Thai. We were just doing pads. We weren't even sparring, which is nuts that this would happen. But my coach wasn't being safe. I mean, I don't, now looking back at it, this was not an accident. This was somebody practicing unsafely intentionally. So I
Wow.
sustained the concussion, I know, but I didn't realize, because I'd never felt that before. I stayed for BJJ after, because I was always taking like two classes back to back,
Hmm.
and I went home and I just didn't feel normal. Like I couldn't figure out why I felt that way. And I'm like talking to people about it. Was just days before I realized I need to be in the hospital. So I woke up one day and realized, yeah, I'm not thinking clearly, like something is wrong. I went to the
Right.
hospital, but it didn't resolve it. So I actually went to the hospital 3 times, and the second time I was hospitalized, I wasn't getting proper treatment, but nonetheless, the concussion happened because my coach was not training me in Muay Thai safely. I had blood coming out of my ears when I was in the hospital, so it was a very serious concussion. And like we're,
Did you get
yeah, go ahead.
did you get punched in the head or what? I'm
Yeah,
curious.
yeah.
What
So
happened?
so we were doing what am I thinking? Counters. So you get
Uh-huh.
some feedback, but you don't have to hit the hell out of your training partner. You're not supposed to.
No.
We're training.
Right.
We're not like killing each other. She was hitting me very hard. This is the same coach that expressed, like, she was gossiping a lot about the other women that are there. So there is an aspect of this is social relationships. Women sometimes are catty and
Yes.
they gossip, sometimes men do it, and vice versa. In
Right.
this particular scenario, my sensei was married, his wife was a therapist as well, and I knew instantaneously she didn't like me just because I'm another woman. But her
Right.
best friend was a coach in Muay Thai, and they would gossip about the other girls. Actually, the coach that injured me was talking to me in private about one of the other girls that was training. Like, do you think she deserves to be a blue belt? Like, just questioning her right, really nasty kind of stuff.
All these things are just like seem crazy to me, but
It
you know,
is
I hear these stories
crazy.
once in a while.
But
Yeah, hitting your training partner and saying people don't deserve to be this and that. It's just like, oh gosh,
they weren't there for the right reasons. And you
a
you
hundred
you
percent.
mentioned before, like, people are too sensitive, meaning like we're not allowed to be critical of them. Like, being triggered isn't the worst thing in the world. It brings up the issue to be addressed. Like, why are you having this reaction? Like, why did they give you this reaction? Why are you thinking this way? What's underneath that? What pattern is underneath that? And I know now that um, I just kind of muted all of the messages that were being conveyed. Like, these are not safe people to be around. It wasn't the whole gym. I mean, I was connecting with all the men, I was,
Yeah.
but to the women, or the women that were bullying me, they thought, oh, she's flirting or whatever. Like, I'm getting promoted
Mhm.
because I'm putting the work in. I was training for competition before I got injured, and I was one of the only members doing. There's like two other people training for competition. I was training at three different gyms. I would train in the afternoon at one gym, and then in the evening, I would train for 3 hours. So I would take the two classes and stay for additional roles after, or show up early, because I was really dedicated. But for people that
Yeah.
were not in that lane, in that zone, they're trying to tear me down in some way. So
Ugh,
that's
that
what
just
happened.
seems everything that all just seems so backwards.
Hmm.
But I don't know. Yeah, thankfully, I'm sorry you had to go through that. You shouldn't have to go through that,
Yeah.
and you would hope that sensei or somebody at that school notices stuff. Because I every once in a while, someone at one of my place will say, talk to the class and be like, "Hey, if you're coming up to me and asking me about promotions or asking me about stripes on your belt and stuff like that, your first clue on why I'm not is the fact that you would come up and do that to,
Yeah. Yeah.
that say that. You know what I mean? The fact that you're worried about that
Yeah.
and approaching me about that. He's like, you got to trust in me. I see everything that's going on. I got my reasons for everything. If you ever want to come talk to me about something in private, but yeah, it's nothing can be more toxic than that when you
For
start
sure.
worrying about other people and thinking you're better than other. It's not like,
Yeah. I just I learned a lot in that injury. It wasn't, of course, I couldn't train.
are you okay now though? Are you all healed up?
I am
And
okay.
are you? Yeah, yeah, good.
Yeah,
And are you at a different gym now?
for sure, for sure. Okay, so I should finish that story. So, I mean, that was the
Yeah,
last time I trained there. That was the last night that I was there
yeah,
when I sustained that injury. But you were saying, like, you would expect the sensei to kind of like ensure that some of those things aren't happening. And really, it just was
yeah,
a toxic environment from the top, because I mean, I'm in the hospital talking to my sensei, thinking I'm going to get that support from him. He's going to help me through that,
right.
because that's what should happen. If I was a
Yeah,
distance runner in school, through high school, like, I have a coach, I have athletic trainers, I've got people that they're resources if I, get injured. And that was not available to me. He really was not. He shouldn't be in that position. I think,
yeah,
as a therapist, as someone that's done some teaching, and I've been in positions of power, like, you need to be emotionally available, not just physically available. You need to be available for the people you're training. And he just wasn't that for me. It really was an argument. It really was just like, I got injured, and because he was protecting his wife, and he was protecting his wife's best friend. And it was about that drama rather than
that's a weird.
my life is
I,
being put on the line. People die from concussions, and I was hospitalized.
yes,
So, and I was given oxygen as well, because I wasn't able to just breathe on my own. So it's like, I was investing all of this time in this gym circle, and the people that were associated, but it was false. Like, that's the important message that I've taken from that. You need to really rely on your intuition, which I think BJJ develops. Like, if somebody is giving you the creeps, if somebody is making you feel like they don't like you or something, listen to that. And especially if it keeps coming up, these people don't have to, you don't have to give your power to them. BJJ is
yes,
is mine. My BJJ is mine. My Brazilian jiu-jitsu is mine. It's not somebody else's. My journey is my own. I don't have to focus on somebody else's goals, which is why I was training so hard. I was trying to get promoted in both and preparing for competition, and I
Yeah.
didn't grow up training in martial art. That was insane. I won't ever
And
forget that.
especially, yeah, and especially in that capacity like that, like everyone's different. Whether you're and if you're there as a hobbyist or you're there as a dad actor guy, or you're there as if someone that wants to compete and train, there's room for everybody, and everybody should respect each other's journeys, and everybody's is different. But it's also, yeah, really important that you, whether it's your professor in BJJ or it's your sensei in Muay Thai, that they have a handle on that, and they kind of know everyone's journey, and they kind of coexisted, and maybe, but that's the key to find someone that's a great instructor, but that also can manage that thing, which is just as important. I watch it all the time when I see these people. Certain people, maybe you don't partner them together on things, or
Mhm.
maybe these certain people don't spar for whatever reason. But that's for the sensei and the students to figure out, and he's got his reasons. And most of the time, these guys are really good. But yeah, you do hear stories of unfortunate incidents like yours. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
I am too. I appreciate that, but again, I can take a lot from it. Like it's a pattern of mine. It's codependency. It's people pleasing. It's I just want to be
Yeah,
accepted. I want it to be a good environment, so I will go out of my way. No, I should have people meeting me there. I should be in an environment where I'm being praised for the hard work that I'm putting in. So now I'm at Gracie Baja, which I should have
hmm,
started there. It's insane because it's like 5 or 10 minutes away from the gym where I started, and it's like if I was in this environment to begin with, where would I be now? I would have already
yeah.
competed a few times. I maybe would have already
Right.
had my blue belt. I don't know, but I'm still grateful for the experience from my injury because it set me on the right path.
Oh, the GB, you found a great spot. Although
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say bad about a GB gym, so you're good to go.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you. I've got there's several black belts, but two of my professors are black belts, and one is like a world champion. Professor Jefferson,
Oh yeah.
yeah, he's a sixth degree black belt. I'm like, how did this?
Oh, mhm.
You know what? Like, if I'm wanting to compete, I need to be in an environment with competitors. Like I
Yeah,
just was not in the
yeah,
right area. I wasn't around the right people. Yeah.
for sure. You got to find a gym that's right for you too. Yeah, there's gyms that are much stronger and have different programs to help you if you want to compete in the tournaments and do things like that too. So, or if you just want to come in and just roll around there. But yeah, you find what's right for you. It sounds like you like your place though, your new place, so that's great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just have a couple of more questions. I want to talk a little bit more about mental health, and then I'll ask my final question. Um, so,
Okay.
so because we've talked about it a little bit, if I'm not engaged in um, martial arts, but really Brazilian Jiu Jitsu or dance, or if I'm not actively participating in that, I do experience some depression, and um,
Hmm.
I want to bring awareness to mental health and mental illness, which are different. Everybody has their mental health makeup, but that turns into illness if we're not treating the problems, when they develop. So I'm curious, Scott. How do you address your mental health issues? Like, have you ever been to therapy before? How do you feel about therapy? Um, yeah. So, have you ever been to therapy before?
I have not been to therapy
Okay.
before. I have been to meetings for different types of like addictions for
Okay.
reasons. I don't know if those count, but I have
Absolutely.
not been to therapy. Uh, I don't. Maybe count wasn't the right thing, but because I haven't been to therapy, I think that my it's I've really like I grew up kind of old school with the mentality, which is no good anymore. We touched on this, like things change, where it was like you going to therapy is you're just soft, like you're not dealing with it. Like suck it up,
Yeah.
Scott, deal with it. You keep that in, just keep it in, suck it up. You're gonna be fine. Everyone has to deal with this stuff, but the old cliche sometimes is true. It's okay not to be okay, and I think I have definitely taken bigger steps because my wife has had some mental health issues in her family and people in therapy. So I've definitely gotten to understand it more. And I will say, I admit, when I first, 10, 12 years ago when we met, I was not super sensitive to it. And I think now I'm way more sensitive to it and understanding of it, and having kids and seeing things, more understanding to it. And I think it's great. I think if therapy, I think whatever works for you, if your therapy is going to meetings,
Yeah.
if it's going to do martial arts, if it's just talking to your friend, um, whatever gets you mentally sharp, mentally happy, mentally in a good place, um, to not be depressed and to not think that the world stinks and to not think that you're not doing the things that are good enough. And like we said, comparing yourself to other people, like, well, they, especially social media too, mental health is so, I think, is even bigger now too, because boy, oh boy, you these kids, man, and the social medias and things like that, it could be, I imagine it's so much tougher
Mhm.
mental health wise, because when I was a kid going to high school, if I didn't get invited to go to the movies that night, I maybe never knew about it, that my three friends were at the movies and I wasn't there. Now it's like these kids have to see it right there, like bam,
You're
right on the
excluded.
feed, like, oh,
Yeah.
everyone's doing something but me. I'm excluded. Wow, am I terrible? What's wrong with me? What's it? So I think it's more important now than ever. So I am a proponent. I'm a fan, and if there came a point where I thought I needed it, I would have no problem uh, going to get help mentally. But the fact that I haven't doesn't mean that I
Mhm.
don't go through stuff like everybody
For
else.
sure. Yeah.
Sometimes, and especially in my business, there's in the acting world. I mean, it's so much rejection and so much no.
Mhm.
You have to be prepared for it. Even if you're good, you might, and even if you're good, you still might never get a job just for whatever reason. But it's just, and you can get lost comparing yourself and lost wanting something too bad, and the rejection and the thoughts of why am I not good enough all the time. So if you can't learn to deal with those on your own in a healthy way, I definitely recommend getting help. So that's kind of where I am. I think I've evolved with it big time, because again, my dad, when he was around, for the time that he was around, he was pretty old school about suck it up,
Yeah.
buttercup. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the world stinks. Get used to it, Sky. Yeah, not everything's going to work out your way. Get it together. You're fine. So, that's
Sure.
kind of how
Sure.
I was raised. No
Yeah.
way, not with my kids. It's not going to be like that. And like I said, my family deals with it in their own way. And
Yeah.
I've been meetings. I don't mean to just go over that. I didn't have someone to represent myself like I had some crazy addictions or afflictions. But years ago, I had a DUI, and you had to go to Alcoholics Anonymous classes and sit in those meetings. And I got
Yeah.
in it before they changed the thing. Also, where there was lots of prayer with the Alcoholics Anonymous, and then you would go to also these other specialty group meetings to really look in the mirror about how bad is your drinking, how bad is your decision making, how bad. And those were helpful. I thought they helped. The most helpful to me was hearing other regular people, like I feel like I'm a regular dude, and that hearing their stories, and that, like,
Right.
or successful people, or people that really have it together, that are making these incredibly stupid choices. And why are we doing that?
Yeah.
Why did I make a stupid choice? I like to think I'm pretty smart, and I was making some stupid
Yeah.
choices with drinking and driving. So I got it handled now, especially with the Uber. Like, there's no excuse to drink and drive and all that stuff.
Sure.
But that's kind of where I'm at with therapy.
I think that a lot of people find healing in a group setting. I think that's why we practice them so regularly is group therapy or support groups, is where you can listen to other people's stories and how they're progressing, and for better or for worse. I mean, progress is not always forward. Sometimes you're taking steps backwards, but it's being in an environment where people are supporting your journey because they're on the same journey. And feel that's an important aspect of Brazilian jiu-jitsu is you're doing this as a community, and everybody
Mm-hmm.
for the most part it has the same intentions, and we're practicing safety and we're having fun. Being in a group dynamic is very healing, and what a lot of people do in conjunction with individual therapy and other therapeutic resources. But I I think, I mean, I'm a therapist, I'm biased.
Mhm.
I think that everybody could benefit from therapy. And I don't think that
Right.
the best way to approach therapy is to wait until you're in like crisis. Is that that's what a lot of
Ah,
people do. I don't think you should wait
yeah.
to pursue, more understanding about your relationship or relationships in general or about yourself until, like, I don't think you should start when you have a problem, but if that's what motivates you, then perhaps in the future you'll address your issues differently. Is that's to me what therapy is getting a
Hmm.
unbiased perspective from a professional that has clinical training, and and how you're addressing these issues and suggesting some other ways to approach them, and then practicing them. Therapists can
Yes.
be like advisors and like coaches. Like they're not simply just treating the most severe issues like schizophrenia and depression and
Right.
bipolar disorder and all of the personality disorders that other professionals skip over, like MPD, narcissistic personality disorder. They're treating all of those very severe conditions. However, our human makeup, we need some intervention when a pattern is developed, when there's a maladaptive pattern that's developed. There needs to be some intervention. Yes, I want to say martial arts is a tool, but some people use martial arts as their therapy and they just are taking it out on other people, which is,
Right.
that's a way to deal with it, but it's not the best way because you're causing harm to others with that intention. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that the way that people should view therapy is that it's just a resource. There's no you're weak for doing this or all of the other messages that have been told and are still there. I hope that people can kind of see past that and see it as a general benefit to just overall health. Like I teach meditation. I could teach you meditation. I'm an EMDR therapist, which is EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So it's a trauma based therapy, and it's really like
Hmm.
accessing your subconscious directly through eye movements or tapping. Like it's like hypnotherapy. So that's a
Wow.
completely different avenue of healing rather than the previous or CAP. I'm also a CAP provider. So CAP stands for ketamine assisted psychotherapy. So this is healing through psychedelics and talk therapy as well, but that's a whole different modality. There's not just one
Yeah.
way to treat problems, human problems. There's a lot of different
Right.
approaches and a lot of different reasons. It's not just okay, I'm contemplating taking my own life or ending my marriage. Like go there
Yeah.
sooner. Go there sooner, please.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. And when you said that right at the beginning, that really caught me. Really struck a nerve, like in a good way. I'm like, that makes so much sense. Because again, I'm stuck in the old school thinking of like, I'll go to therapy. Yeah, sure. If something goes wrong, I'll go to therapy. I'm not against it. Like if I have, but you're right. It's like, why not go before something goes wrong? And boy, that makes a lot of sense. Like I don't think anybody's ever said that, or I've never thought of it or heard it that way.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot
Well,
because I look at it even just like, yeah, well, anything. It's like you don't need to work out a lot. You're in shape. Well, yeah, I do. I like to. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Why do you have to? I'm trying to make a. Maybe that's not the best
no,
analogy, but
no,
I'm trying to make an analogy
it is a perfect
to
analogy. Yeah. If
the
you
things of like,
if you then
yeah,
sustain an
just
injury
because I'm doing
because
good, yeah,
yeah, if you're doing fine and then you get injured and then you have to go through physical rehab to develop the muscles around that area so you can get back to your status quo, like, well, you could have done some things in advance to prevent that.
preventive,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that's what. Well, good job. Way to save me. You got it
No,
much better. You got
you're
it
on
out
the
much
right
better than I did.
track. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. Was like, yeah, there's that, like, why wouldn't I, I'm trying to preempt not, having health problems or injuries or something like that. So I always get myself into doing something. And yeah, why wouldn't you do that mentally as well? That's what I was trying to spit out. Good for you.
Well, that's also my job, is to
Yeah.
connect with my clients, to have emotional intelligence to understand what they're experiencing or trying to convey.
Hmm.
But maybe they don't have the language to do. Maybe they have never expressed themselves in this way ever in their lifetime. You have somebody that is not is trained to not judge you in that way, to be unbiased. Like, your therapist really can't be your friend. It can't be, especially can't be your romantic partner. We don't have any roles in any other areas besides that professional therapeutic relationship. So I
Right.
don't care if we have goals in therapy and then you go and break them outside in the real world. Like, I don't know everything else that's going on in your life. I can stay in this unbiased zone and give you advice based on the problems that are existing, like a clinician, like a researcher, like a scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. That is definitely good food for thought for me. That definitely is going to stick here for
Good,
me.
good. I'm glad. That's my goal, is to normalize therapy and normalize these therapeutic terms, because I mean, it's our human makeup. It's what we need.
Right.
I've been through tons of therapy and I really love it, but I know that I'm a little different because my background has always been, I want to go into psychology. I want to help people in this way. Like, it was normalized because that was my passion anyway. But I've like not wanted to address things before,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
like resisted in certain ways. And um my experience with EMDR therapy and processing trauma, like I've I've had so much trauma, and just talking, I've been resistant in talking about some of it. That's just a human reaction. When you're not ready to deal with it, you're just not ready. And I'm a human
Right.
being like everybody else, but I have found a lot of relief. That's why I was able, I'll share this little bit and then I'll ask my final question. Um, I found martial arts because I was experiencing trauma. So,
Hmm.
Dr. Bessel van der Kolk wrote the book, The Body Keeps a Score. And in that book, he talks about how martial arts helps to heal trauma. So I knew prior that science literature says that this is a healing modality for trauma. So I pursued it when I was in a very vulnerable place. I was in an abusive relationship. So I had just left that relationship. I'd been in other abusive relationships, but this one was physically abusive. So that was brand new. And I was like, I
Mm.
can't be that vulnerable. I need to. My hand was broken. My right hand was broken. My dominant hand was broken. So I got out of that relationship and found martial arts. And I realized that that statement is true. Martial arts does help to heal trauma. But um, I was carrying other traumas prior to that abusive relationship. So the pandemic brought on a lot of loss in my family. I've lost a lot of loved ones, um, including my mom. She unexpectedly passed away. I appreciate that. And my brother and my nephew and cousins, and just so collectively
Ugh.
10 people for over those really challenging years. So all of my stability was just uprooted. I was just like, what's going to happen? Like, where's my life going to go now? With all of these people that were part of my support system gone.
Right.
I had to like start over in that sense. And so martial arts has helped me heal that trauma and build confidence enough to be able to share that with people in the world. Like, this is a public platform, and
Yeah.
people literally all over the world are listening. So that's just a blessing. Yeah, yes, I went
It
through a
really is.
lot of crises, but that is a part of life. Experiencing adversity is an essential part of life for everybody. And if I don't get wrapped up in the details and trying to make meaning of what this person says about what happened and all of that drama, I can just see it as these were obstacles in my life that I needed to find some meaning and work through. And on the other side of that, I've created a life that I've always wanted through this
Yeah,
platform at working for myself and helping people. Like I was able to do that through this journey.
that's amazing. I'm so sorry for your losses, what, how well said, and what a beautiful thing you've got going, and a beautiful attitude you have about it, and just so healthy and positive, and I love it. So good for you. Very well said.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I get to share it. And so I will ask my final question. I'm excited to do that. My show is called Freedom to Fight. So, Scott, what does freedom mean to you?
Oh, well, I should have seen that coming. I didn't even see it coming. Wow, that's a God, freedom is another one of those things too. I think I am guilty of taking it for granted,
Yeah.
because I've just grown up in such a. I've for the most part, I've had a pretty good time of it in this life. Not, I've had adversity in my life, but um, nothing like you or other people but for the most part. So I think maybe I've been someone that's maybe taken freedom for granted, but I think of freedom as just it is just when you look around the world and see what other people will get out of your little bubble, like I'm in here with things with my family and my kids and my career or whatever, and think all these things are tough, and this is not getting enough jobs, or oh, my kid's school this. When you think of freedom for me as opposed to freedom for somebody else who maybe can't eat, freedom for somebody else who maybe has no place to sleep, it's such a different. I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's such a
Yeah.
different thing. Like freedom isn't just, hey, this one lion is in a cage and one lion is running in the wild. Well, he's way more free. There's so much more to it than that, because you can be free, but not free because of maybe society or what's happening or the government or things that you put on yourself. I think freedom is just, God, this is a deep. I don't know why I'm turning
It's
this.
no,
Maybe
it's
I should get
good. It's
this deep too.
wonderful.
Yeah, freedom for me, it's really, it sounds so simple to be like just to be able to do what I want to do, but it's more to me than that. It's more freedom for me is about other people and letting
Mm,
other people be free to live their lives the way they want to without it bothering me. Let this person be free and do what's right with their lives that makes them happy, that gets them through this crazy thing we call life. As long as they're not hurting me or anybody else, do your thing, live free, and let me do the same. Let me have my space to figure this crazy thing out too in the way that I want to. And I don't think everybody necessarily gets that, and other societies necessarily get that. So I'm so lucky we have that here. I'm so lucky that I think I'm experiencing freedom because I do, for the most part, get to make my own decisions and surrounding myself with tolerant people. And I love that. I think freedom is accepting other people and respecting their right to be free.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's you said it just right. That I can't think there's another speaker that says something like that. That I'm not free if the person next to me is suffering. Like we all have to be
Oh,
free.
yeah,
Yeah. It's not. I can't just enjoy it if I go or if I drive around town and I see just tons of homelessness, like I'm not
right.
free. Like I'm grateful for the place that I live in, but it doesn't make me feel better like that somebody is sleeping on a corner, and I have all of this luxury. This isn't right. I much rather have even a less nicer place so that that person can also have a place to live. Like we all need to be free. So you said it exactly
Yeah, you're
what
right.
resonates with me.
That's it. And that's kind of what I was trying to get at when I mentioned that, like when someone that's in a cage or someone that's out free, looking, a homeless person is a perfect example. Like if you think, oh, well, at least he's free. He can do whatever he wants and he doesn't have to be chained down by work or by rent or by bills. I'm like, is he really free? Not really. These things are so tough for him. He's so everything's closed in on him just because he's laying outside and could do it. Doesn't have to be anywhere. That's not freedom.
It's not.
That can be even bigger trap. So I like what this other speaker says too, because it's true that freedom isn't when it's hard to feel free when there's other people around you who aren't, that you feel almost just as trapped as they do. Um, by looking at it that way. So that's interesting.
I mean, everybody has a struggle that we don't understand. And I think homelessness in general is just so misunderstood. It's like, can we like
It's a
do
tough one.
without it though? Like, I think that there's enough housing for everybody. I think it's just societal opinions about how people should be living their lives. Like the reality is the cost of living is through the roof. I'm in Colorado. It's so expensive to live here. There's more homelessness than there's ever been. I think the reality is we need to step up to meet the demand. The supplies need to meet the demand. If we have it, let's work towards it. If we don't have it, let's work towards getting the supplies. But let's not just blame the victim. Let's not just say, well, everybody needs to be empowered, but if somebody's on the street, it's very unlikely they're going to be able to attain a job and then get housing all on
Right.
their own. They're too far
It
past
is
that.
so. It is so hard. I try not to judge anybody's opinion on it either way because I think we would have figured it out if we could have figured it out. I don't know without getting into all the conspiracy theories, way or but I just it is the hardest issue I think to deal with because it seems so easy, but it's just there's no like one size fits all solution for it. No one's been able to figure it out. Just throwing money at it doesn't work, I don't think. Just throwing free housing at it, I don't think works. I there's because there's so many nuances to it. So someone might be homeless because they can't afford it, yes, but then they might also be homeless because they have mental health issues like we've been talking about. Someone might also not be homeless because they have a tremendous addiction problem and their mind's not putting them in the space to care about it. There's so many things and they can't all be thrown in the same basket to be fixed. So there's got to be multiple ways, like multiple levels and different ways to fix this for different people. I don't know. It seems like one of those problems like I hope someone's able to figure it out because I sure can't, and no one else obviously has been able to because they're. I'm in Southern California, so
Oh
it's
my gosh.
everywhere out here. It's
Yeah,
everywhere.
for
Los
sure.
Angeles, it's everywhere,
Yeah.
and it's a tough problem. So
So
we could go another 2 hours talking about.
we could, and I won't let that happen because I'm super passionate about this. But I will share that I think that the resources that we have are misallocated. Like, I'm just going to be real. I'm a mental health professional. I have 10 years experience. I'm practicing as a therapist, but I've done homeless outreach. I have a good handle of this problem. I think what gets in the way more often than not is disorganization in these programs and corruption.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people are donating to these programs and it's going to someone's salary to keep somebody in that position so they could do the job to help the people. But a lot of the resources are going to keeping people in these jobs rather than going to the people that are needing the help. And a lot of times, if somebody's applying for rental assistance or anything for housing, it takes months of time. So if somebody
Yeah.
needs 1 month of rent and they don't get it for 3 months, well, then there's a bigger problem that's created. They can pay 1 month, but now they're 2 months behind. So how do you provide an appropriate intervention? I'm hoping to do that. And the last little bit I'll
I
share
hope
is
you do too. We need someone to. Yeah.
my contribution to that is so every guest most of every guest that has been on my show, because I train in martial arts, I am planning to travel to see my guests and have a sparring match to raise money to support the awareness of homelessness and to support programs that will help eliminate homelessness. So that's my intention, and I would like to invite you to fight me if you'd like to, so I can raise some money for this.
I would love that. Let's do it. Let's set it up.
Yeah. Okay.
The owner, the head professor at the MMA gym in Burbank, Professor Crane, is amazing, and he does a lot of things, a lot of fun events and different cool stuff like this. We could get that set up, no problem.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm gonna end it here. I am so
Perfect.
thrilled that you came on my show. We had such an excellent conversation, and yeah, I can't wait to share this with everybody.
Me too. I was thrilled to be here. It was great talking to you, and I better start training if I'm going to be going at it with you.
I'm
You
coming.
sound pretty good. So, okay. Thank you
Okay.
so
Thank
much.
you. And that's it. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. Scott's super awesome. Please go follow him on social media. I will leave all of those details below, as I normally do. Follow me on social media if you're not doing that already. I share some, inspirational things and some funny memes and stuff like that. Um, I would like to give everybody an update because I said that I would. I'm also going to include some of these details just about my life in my recaps. Thank you for being patient with that as well. But yeah, so I'm in a safe place. I'm out of the city and area where I was being harassed and stalked. And yeah, I just was not welcomed in Longmont. I had lots of people trying to make sure that I felt unsafe and there. But I've been able to get out of there. You're a safe place in a safe area. And I want to thank everybody that donated to my GoFundMe to help me get relocated. I'm still kind of trying to decide what city and state is safest for me. But yeah, I know that people are concerned and maybe want to know more details, and maybe we could talk about that on a more personal level. But I'm out of that environment, and I learned kind of a lot, that uh, it's great that I have a larger audience, that I've reached more countries, that I am growing. Freedom to Fight is growing, and I'm growing as a person. But I do realize that that's not always a good thing, depending on what company you're around. And so it's important to trust yourself, trust your intuition. When you see something, even if you're in an environment where people are not listening to you, are not protecting you, kind of like the local police or the courts, or trust yourself. And I think if perhaps I would have done that sooner, I don't know, in hindsight, maybe things would have been a bit different. But regardless, I was in a apartment complex that had literally no Black women. I was the only person there. Um, Watched by the apartment complex management or maintenance, neighbors. Then I noticed people in the community watching me. I hit my car, tried to. But yeah, I know that speaking up about some of that stuff, I was being gaslighted. I was gaslighting myself to some degree, but it's hard to reach out for help and say, hey, I don't have a handle of this. But I was able to do that with some friends, and devised a plan, and was able to relocate. Even had the sheriff's department reach out to some of my neighbors to say, hey, this is not okay. So this is kind of an ongoing, the resolution of issues are ongoing. So I just wanted to give everybody an update. Nobody's where you can reach out to me. And if you'd like to still support me, you can always make a donation The details are in the description of the episode on my Instagram, and places where you can support me. So thank you again for being patient. Thank you again for listening. And I've got new episodes coming. So until then.